Let me ask the viewers at home, if you know how many guitar players are left on the planet that still tour with 1959 Les Pauls. I know one of them. It's Kirk Hammett. This is the Gibson USA Kirk Hammett Greeny Les Paul, a reissue and recreation of the original that he's still playing on stage today. I'm Jordan, this is Tommy, we're at the Music Zoo. Let's get into it. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the Music Zoo's channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. All right, so the Kirk Hammett Greeny. It is based on the original 59 that Kirk is still playing on stage. I saw him last summer at Central Park. He was playing Greeny, and I was like, holy smokes, that is an original guitar on stage. That is full of lore. But before Kirk owned it, it went from Peter Green of Fleetwood Mac to Gary Moore in the late 70s to the early 80s, onwards, so forth. You know, that's how these legendary things go. People pass them down, people need to sell guitars. So that's what that was based off of. It's always been a really special guitar. This was actually came on my radar in the early 2000s. I think it was 2010. I first started working at the Music Zoo as a wee lad. And the first really expensive collectible Les Paul I ever saw was CC number 1. It was the 1959 that was owned by Gary Moore and sold to collector Melvin Franks. So that was the first time I ever saw an incarnation of this guitar.
And the original guitar actually came on my radar in the mid-2000s as a guitar dealer, because that original guitar, Kirk's guitar, was getting offered up to different people. And it came on my radar, and I was a day late and $1 short for that one. And it spent some time, like, I don't know if it was trading hands necessarily, but it spent some time with one particular dealer that I think of, and he had it for a while. And, you know, I think it was $250,000 back then. I think it sold for a lot more.
Yeah, I would put 50 bucks in.
But yeah, it was a lot of dough.
Yeah. Were there any times in like the 70s or early 80s when Gary was playing the guitar? Did you ever encounter it live or on TV or anything like that?
I did. So like for me, you know, like to take you back in time, for at least for me, you are of your time, right? So for me, when I first started playing the guitar in the late 70s, you really didn't have that much access to music unless you went to a concert. You weren't really seeing anybody. There was no MTV. There was no there's certainly no YouTube or way to see your favorite guitar player, artist, band, whoever, except for back then there was like some late night talk shows or television shows where you could lucky enough to catch maybe Kiss on like Tom Schneider or there was the Paul Lynde special. I don't know why I'm thinking about Kiss so much, but but there was other rock shows. One was called Rock World, and I used to see Thin Lizzy often on that show, and Thin Lizzy was great about I loved everything about like a Thin Lizzy video and them just like always showing off the coolest guitars. And I remember Gary Moore playing the Greeny back then on like one particular show, and they were live performances in playing that guitar. And Gary Moore was just so fantastic, and certainly for me, like mind-blowing. So like, he's selling guitars, right? Just you see that guitar and you're just like, I need a Les Paul, don't I? You know, like I need to do that. That's cool. So that was the first time I think I saw it. And then at a later point, it appeared on one of the Gary Moore solo records, on the back of the solo record. And it's interesting because I was just watching the video with Kirk talking about the guitar, and the same impression that he had, I guess we're similar ages, is the impression that
it's kind of cool that I mean, guitar players of your generation probably all looked at these records and those performances were like, God, I wish I owned that guitar.
Yeah.
Kirk.
And that's exactly it. Like,
Kirk
I remember, I think it was the Back in the Streets album, I think.
Sounds
it was
familiar,
like his first solo record. And there was different versions of it. Back then, like you could get like the US print, or you could get the print that came out in Japan. And each print like usually had like some different photos on it. And there was one with him like holding it up, and I just remember immediately going, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's just such a recognizable guitar from like the burst, the pickups, the knobs, everything. It's such a recognizable piece.
And then the second, but the first time, you know, like it's kind of blurry to me now, but the thing that made even more of an impression was the Corridors of Power record, which was Gary Moore's second solo record, and probably the rock record. Like the one before then might have been like confused with like a little bit Fusion, Back in the Streets.
We did a video on that, so click that link right here. We're gonna pop that in. You can watch that video.
There you go. Yeah, but that record, like he's on the cover of the album holding that, and he looks super cool, and it's just like the silhouette of Greeny.
Yeah.
And just listening to that record makes you just go like, I need that.
Yeah, and I mean, we've heard Metallica cover Thin Lizzy songs for years, so I'm sure like Kirk saw this guitar on album covers. It was probably just like I said before, like I wish I owned that guitar.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, he had the chance to buy it. And yeah, he's been playing it on stage. They just did the collectible version of the guitar, which was like very limited and aged. This is the USA production, a little bit more attainable, we should say.
Yeah.
And they killed it. There's some really cool specs on this. I think we should get into it.
Sure, let's do it.
AAA flame maple top. This one is especially nice looking. So is that one.
This one's great.
It's a Les Paul. There's not really much you can do with it besides make it as authentic as you can. Flame maple top, mahogany body, rounded 50s neck profile, chunky. Not too chunky.
Not too chunky.
Nice and comfortable.
Yeah.
But it's the Greeny, so there were some key elements, both aesthetically and electronically, that they had to nail, and I think they did a really good job. First off, we got the mismatched knobs, which I believe Gary did in the 80s or 70s, God knows when. Probably was playing too hard and knocked one or two off. Who knows? It's got pointers, which is a nice touch that you don't see too often on a USA guitar. And these are the Greeny buckers. You can't just take any pickup and put it into Greeny. It's got to be the Greeny bucker. So I just read something interesting, that Peter Green himself didn't even know what the secret sauce of the guitar was. To him, he was like, people asked him like, oh, you put your guitar out of phase? And he's like, what are you talking about? It's just my guitar. It wasn't until, I believe, the 80s, when Gary Moore had the guitar, he went to Hamer, so he brought it over to Joel Dantig, and they were trying to figure out what made the guitar tick, so to speak. And Joel figured out that it was the neck pickup, not just turned upside down, but the magnets were reversed, right? Yeah. So the pickup was out of phase with itself, where on its own it sounds wacky and a little more like full than you would if you just wired the entire guitar to be out of phase. So I'm sure you've played CC1, you've played the other Kirk Hammett replica guitars. What do you think about the Greeny buckers?
Yeah, I think they nailed it. You know, so what's interesting is it's really not just the rhythm pickup, but it's the dance between both of them, and what happens when you reverse the magnet inside the pickup. So it's really most of the fun happens in the middle position. And once you're in middle position, now it's the way that the two pickups act between each other because they're out of phase. And then with that said, you could start messing with your tone knobs and things like that. And there's all sorts of sounds you could dial in besides just like the full out tone and having that Peter Green-esque and Gary Moore like used it a lot too, just like this really open, hollow sound that just sounds different than any Les Paul. But then you could start turning the tone knob off, and you get these interesting, like almost, dare I say, like Boston Tom Schultz song, you know, like the More Than a Feeling, like those rhythm parts and stuff. They have like a very nasal sound to them, and the rhythm pickup itself, just with that magnet reverse, sounds really fantastic.
It really just makes the guitar like a chameleon, like whatever you want it to do, it can do. And like if you're an experienced player and you like to play with your volumes for dynamics, there's things you're getting out of this Paul.
And did we ever figure that out? But is it literally like just like whoever was making the guitar at the time, making the pickup, they just kind of like reversed it, or sometime maybe before Peter Green got the guitar, somebody went in there and reversed that magnet? I don't know. Maybe you guys know.
I feel like it's lost to rock and roll time. Leave us a comment if you know the story, but to me it's just rock and roll lore, but it's a freaking magical Les Paul.
But it really does something different than you're used to. So if you've never experienced something like this, you should give it a shot.
Yeah. So we were just talking about the history of the guitar. We realized here at the Music Zoo, there's so many different types of guitar players that they kind of mirror the ownership of the original guitar. So we're going to start with Scott doing his Peter Green. You'll do your Gary Moore, and then I'll do Sorry by Best Kirk. Let's hear this guitar in action. last words for the people about this latest Gibson release?
Yeah, you know, I think the thing that comes up for me the most is the fact that that Kirk's actually out there playing this guitar. I don't know if this video would ever get to him, you know, but thanks for playing this. Thanks for not sticking it in a closet somewhere or in a museum or just closed off to everybody. He's playing it every night. Us as the fans get to enjoy it and hear it. It's undeniable that he's in love with the guitar. I don't think it ever leaves his side. Every picture I see of him now, he's got it.
I heard a story, if you see him and he has the guitar, he'll let you play it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's that generous with it. Yeah,
yeah.
It's very cool.
He seems, our paths crossed in the 80s a few times, but never he was always super cool, and even watching him from afar, he just seems like a real nice guy. And I just think it's wonderful that he's actually just playing it.
I agree.
It's just not stored away forever and ever and ever. So thanks. It helps the guitar community, helps us as guitar players because we all want to hear it, you know. So it's really fantastic.
Yeah, it's history.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for today. This is, again, the Gibson USA Kirk Hammett Greeny Les Paul, available now at themusiczoo.com. Please like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, throw us a comment in the comment section with your favorite whoever owned this guitar, your favorite Greeny memory, if you ever saw it on stage. We'd love to hear about it.
I have a separate thing I completely forgot to mention. I'm going to mention right now. My Aunt Marie used to make chicken cutlets in the early 80s, late 70s, and my cousin Greg would bring them to the rehearsal studio in Jamaica when they were living in the music building in Jamaica, Queens, before they were Metallica, because they didn't really have much money and stuff like that, and he would just bring them a pile of chicken cutlets and stuff like that, back in the
there you go.
In the old days, yeah, when they were living there. It was probably not the happiest days for them. They had no money, but
they used to do the ham on salami.
Yeah.
Their thing, we used to eat salami and ham on our hands. Or something like that.
Yeah. So she was. I don't know if you ever watches the video. My aunt was making chicken cutlets for you.
If there's anything the Music Zoo ever taught you, it's that a good chicken cutlet will save your life. All right, everyone, take care.